Hey, what's going on, everyone? Bass here. So the news just came out that David Bakhtiari is slated to practice for the first time since tearing his ACL back on New Year's Eve. So today, I just kind of wanted to go over what to expect on his return. So obviously, David Bakhtiari to begin the season was put on the PUP list, the physically unable to perform list, and that means you're out for a minimum of 6 weeks, and he is eligible to return this week. And now this opens up a 3-week window where he can practice but not play in any games. If the 3-week window were to pass, which is right before the Seattle game, and he weren't to be activated to the 53, then he would be placed on IR. So technically, the Packers could activate David Bakhtiari to the 53 this week, and technically he could play against the Washington football team. I don't see that happening. The Packers aren't like that to rush someone out there. I think to hold him out to at least against Arizona next Thursday night to get him acclimated, but there's also a chance they could hold him out all the way to the Kansas City game the week after that. Now, I say this because on Monday, Matt LaFleur had this to say about David Bakhtiari. He said, when you're coming off a pretty significant injury, you don't want to just throw somebody out there. We want to make sure that, number one, physically his knee is in great shape and he's not at further risk of doing more damage to it. And I also think there's a confidence factor that you need to develop by playing football, whether that's in practice, so there's a ramp up period. So it's very clear they want to ease into this. They don't just want to throw David Bakhtiari out there at risk of getting him, re-injured. And I agree with this approach. The Packers' offensive line has looked pretty damn good this year without David Bakhtiari, and getting him back will definitely be a very, very big plus for this offense, but there's no need really to rush him in. This week against Washington, their defense is pretty abysmal. So if you were to rest David Bakhtiari this week and maybe get him back in for the Arizona game, which will be a very big game, that would definitely be more ideal there. So that moves me on to my next point. How will the Packers' offensive line look when David Bakhtiari does return? Now, state the obvious. They're getting the best left tackle in the league back. But also starting center Josh Myers was hurt in the Chicago game. On the fourth play, went out with that knee injury. The timetable is kind of unclear on him. But David Bakhtiari could technically return before Josh Myers does. So that will also shake up the line a little bit there. So if that is the case, then you have to ask the question, are they going to put Elton Jenkins back to guard when Bakhtiari returns? Or are they going to move him to center with Josh Myers still being out? Me personally, I think they'll put him at center. Just because Elton Jenkins has a lot of experience at center. That's not saying Lucas Patrick didn't fill in great. I think he played wonderfully at the center position. I mean, he has played center in his career many times, but Elton Jenkins is an all-pro center, an all-pro guard. He could definitely play either, but the Packers have ran with their starting left guard and right guard the entire season so far, so I would guess they would want to keep those guys there once David Bakhtiari returns, and then if Josh Myers isn't ready, just put Elton Jenkins there at center. So as I was saying, the starting guards, Jon Runyan obviously being that starting left guard and Royce Newman being the right guard. In my opinion, I think Jon Runyan has played better than Royce Newman this year. Royce Newman has been kind of shaky, a few blown blocks last week on some stunts that he just completely missed. So then I move on to my next point, and I ask, if Josh Myers returns and David Bakhtiari returns, then what do you do? Because obviously Elton Jenkins is going to be put to left guard or right guard, one of the guard spots he's going to start at. So then at that point, you have to sit one of either Runyan or Royce Newman. And in my opinion, I think you would sit Royce Newman. Now, obviously, we'll see what the Packers do when that road is crossed. Obviously, everyone has to get healthy for us to even have that conversation. But they also might just throw Elton Jenkins at left guard and keep Royce Newman in there because he's been playing right guard. Maybe they don't want to swap Jon Runyan over to the right guard position. We don't know. We kind of just have to wait and see until everyone gets healthy, if that even ever happens. But overall, this offensive line play has been great given the injuries. I made a video about it back last week about how this offensive line needs more credit. If you want to go check that out, the link will be above. But obviously, when David Bakhtiari returns, expect this line to get even better, be a top 3 offensive line in the league. That's with when, Bakhtiari and Myers returns, or this offensive line becomes full strength. David Bakhtiari was the best pass blocking left tackle last year via PFF, only allowing 1 sack the entire year. And then in terms of PFF overall grade, he was number 2, but by only 0.1, right below Trent Williams. So basically 1A and 1B there. So in other injury news, MVS is also eligible to return this week. He missed the required 3 games when he was placed on IR with that hamstring injury, but Matt LaFleur wouldn't commit to him returning this week, but he still can be activated if they wanted to. Cornerback Kevin King still has that shoulder injury. Matt LaFleur did say IR is not necessary, so he should be back this week or next. And then when asked about an update on Jaire Alexander, Matt LaFleur still hasn't 100% ruled out season-ending surgery, but he did have some good-sounding things to say. He said, I can't 100% rule that out on the season-ending surgery, but we feel like it's progressing nicely. It's a constant thing that we're always kind of rescanning, if you will, and making sure that we get the right opinions from everyone to help out Jaire. and put him in the best possible position. So it's definitely good to hear that Jair Alexander is progressing. I think the best case scenario would be to have him return against the undefeated Arizona Cardinals. But that about does it for today's video. Just some injury updates. Hopefully we get David Bakhtiari, Jair Alexander, and Josh Myers back in the near future, and this team can finally start to look a little bit more healthy. Leave a like on the video down below. And on that note, I'll catch you on the next one. As always, go Pack Go.